We are back for our latest episode of Boardroom RevOps, where we are bringing you valuable tips from RevOps experts so you can make it to the C-suite. Again, I'm James, co-founder of Accountaim, the next-gen BI solution for RevOps teams. I'm joined by Jacki Leahy today, founder of the fractional RevOps agency Activate the Magic. Great to have you on, Jacki.
So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Excited to dive in today. We're going to go into what the popular bowtie model is, how to operationalize it as a RevOps lead, as well as how to think about early stage RevOps more generally. But before we do, Jacki, do you want to share your background in a bit more detail for folks?
I would love to talk about myself, James. My name is Jacki Leahy. I'm the founder of Activate the Magic, where we provide fractional RevOps support to early stage B2B SaaS companies. I like to think of us as the traveling circus of technical ops. Full of heart, highly skilled, and just allergic to bloated systems. So we help companies go from 0 to 10 million, taming that chaos without, being too heavy-handed. Before this, I was a kindergarten teacher and I sold real estate in New York City, and I found my way into SaaS sales in 2016. I've always considered career as my medium for self-expression. And RevOps is really where my inner systems meets my love for helping people really do their jobs well.
Love it. Sounds like you've lived many lives, which I'm sure adds to the perspective you can lend as the founder of Activate the Magic. Before we dive into the bowtie model, how do you define RevOps?
Okay, nobody attack me, nobody fight me. Just kidding. So I see RevOps as the HVAC system for your go-to-market engine. When it's working well, you don't even notice it. When it's not, everybody's sweating and everyone's blaming each other. But at its core, RevOps is about creating systems and processes and uncovering insights that help the revenue teams and go-to-market teams do their best work. Aligned, empowered, and flowing.
I'm glad you use that metaphor because I think that's the biggest challenge of being a RevOps practitioner is that no one notices you unless you're doing a bad job or things are going wrong. And so I think that'll be a really valuable perspective. But let's hop right in here. So let's talk bowtie. For those that aren't familiar with the term, what is the bowtie?
The bowtie. So it's a visual representation of the full customer lifecycle. So think of your traditional funnel and you flip it on its side and then you mirror it. So you've got the awareness, kind of acquisition of leads. Then you convert them into deals, you work the deals, you close the deals, and then you're on the right side of the bow tie where you're onboarding, expanding, and increasing that lifetime value.
And I know that you are a huge fan. Tell me why. Why did this draw your attention?
Tell me why. So I've actually been a huge fan of Jacco van der Kerk since 2018. I went to an outreach user conference in San Diego and he was a speaker. I got to be in the room with him. And then a couple years later in 2021, I believe, I got to be in the founding cohort of the growth revenue architecture course that was offered through Pavilion. And let me just tell you, it unleashed this obsession. Nights, weekends, holidays, I was building solutions inside of Salesforce to attempt to operationalize the bowtie. And for the good 18 months of my life, I was like a dog with a bone.
Tell me more about operationalizing the bowtie. What does that mean? So we have the visual representation going from leads to active deals to close one to expansion. How do we put that into motion as a RevOps lead?
Yeah, so it's really representing the revenue engine as a system and approaching go-to-market as its own ecosystem. So when you change one thing, it's going to change the entire ecosystem. So that in itself, the sort of first principles way of looking at it, it was just such a huge aha moment. And the idea is, instead of big men yelling at me in a conference room about their opinions, I would be able to be like, hey, this is actually, let's diagnose what's going on here. So that was just so compelling to me as a short lady in tech. Let's talk about what's actually happening and not get hung up on weird opinions of how I used to do it at my old company.
That's great. So it sounds like, to recap, the value of the bow tie is a visual representation of how the system works in go-to-market. It's using data to be more objective about what's actually happening in the funnel and post-sale. Anything else to add on like the value of the bow tie? Like why should folks really lean into it?
Well, I think it does a really good job when you use it to like tactilely show what's happening, right? So often, like, we mean well, but we just get so disjointed, right? And it's like under stress, I'm going to take care of my own and have my own fiefdom. I'm going to have my vanity metrics. Whereas when you really look at it as a system, it's like, that's why I'm fighting with marketing team, right? Because they have a completely different definition than what I'm working off. And that ended up actually being what I realized was that building a data dictionary was actually the first enormous obstacle that I was coming across when it would come to aligning a go-to-market team on never mind the bow tie, right?
On anything.
On anything. And if you don't really clean and normalize that data, diagnosing off of lumpy, I'm just going to call it lumpy, apples and oranges and a banana, like that's actually more dangerous than just a gut check.
Yeah, 100%. It's like blind precision, and that's not helpful either. Okay, so alignment is like the last piece of value there, which I think makes total sense. I do want to get more into that data piece you just mentioned, but before I do, like, I think this is a great tool to use as a RevOps leader because it's data driven. It's like a whole mental model into system, as you said. But you obviously can't implement this in like a vacuum, right? Like you need buy-in from each of those functional leaders to align them. So if they're running their own fiefdoms, any advice you'd give to RevOps leaders to get that alignment? Like, how do you sell using the bow tie to
Oh my
executives?
gosh. And if anybody has a better way, please tell me. But here's what's been working for me on this: a good whiteboarding session, right? And I do it digitally, obviously. I have a Lucid Spark template, and I've got an iPad with an Apple Pencil, and I share my iPad screen with the team, and I've got the template with like the bow tie on it, and we just talk through what's happening in their revenue engine. And what we're going to do is uncover gaps. And I didn't realize, wait, we have to work together on this? But what I'm actually listening for is uncovering their key constraint. I'm a huge fan of the theory of constraints because it is a system. And what I see so often is we're doing all these initiatives at once, and it's like, even if it works, we actually have no idea what worked, right? So really having that discipline and guts to pick one thing, focus on that, and actively let other things burn. Like that, I think that is the really hard thing. And even when you do get alignment on that meeting, and you will, because people want to work together, they actually do want to connect, but then you really got to keep running it like a PR campaign, right? Because then the sales leader goes back to their team and the marketing leader, and all of a sudden their world is blowing up. Yeah, it's a big pain, it's a big friction for me personally, but is it expensive enough? Is it worth, does it rise to the level of the entire organization focusing on it? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I love that description because it really strikes me as being like an internal seller. Like the whiteboarding session is basically discovery. Like, how do I open their eyes on their own of this huge problem and lead the horses to water? And then how do I continue to sell it and make sure that the pain is actually big enough? So I think those are really good tips. Okay, so that's kind of like alignment in sales. Data. You mentioned this was like a thorny part of using the bow tie. Like, how do we align the definitions? How do we actually get clarity in what is probably a messy, potentially marketing automation platform stack? So tell me about the data requirements to do this well.
Talk about character development with me. You could do a whole movie. I'm going to say well is relative, right? How to do it well. For so long, I was really hung up on getting all of the data points for the entire bow tie. So for each of those conversion points, I think there's 6 of them, 7 of them, the time, the value, like the raw number, and the conversion rate. I was certain that I needed all 3 of those data points for the entire bow tie before, like, to be able to diagnose. And I was so obsessed with that it really dawned on me, like literally recently, like in December. What if we just start with LTV to CAC? Let's just, like, super simple to ballpark and sketch out these numbers on a napkin, right? And then as you grow and build your infrastructure and processes, you can tighten that up and get better metrics, more precise metrics, but just starting with which side of the bow tie is the problem child right now, and it can switch. It can switch real fast. And just for benchmarking, if you're listening to this, the minimum viable business is going to be a 3-to-1. Lifetime value of a client being 3 times as much as the cost of acquisition. You're going to shoot for like 10-to-1. That's you're in a great spot.
Very good, yeah.
And if you're hitting 30-to-1, you are printing money, baby. Go get funding and throw gasoline on it.
That's awesome. Yeah, so just to recap for anyone listening that isn't totally plugged into LTV to CAC, so I'll just repeat lifetime value over customer acquisition costs. So lifetime value is kind of the combination of deal size and retention. How long do they stick around? And there's also usually a gross margin component in there for some of the costs. And that customer acquisition cost is usually the all-in cost of your sales and marketing efforts. So kind of direct marketing on the account and then the sales time and budget to close that deal. And so you kind of do the division over that to make sure that your lifetime value of that customer is in excess of your cost. That's my quick detour to my origin as an investment banker from a past life. So tell me more, LTV to CAC, like if we're picking that one metric, so how do you then, it's one thing to report it, and it's great to have to report it, but then how do you use it across the team if that's kind of the one metric we're starting with? Like how does that manifest like day to day or week?
Yeah, so I'm also a founder. I'm building an agency, right, with recurring revenue. And here's what it looked like for me to get started. I've got QuickBooks and I've got Stripe and I've also got Google Sheets. Like literally just manually tabulating things and showing. And then I do have a weekly staff meeting with my leadership, and yeah, I brought it to them. Like, look, I'm going to say our constraint is here, right? At the time, it was pipeline. I needed to generate more pipeline. And so this is the constraint that we're actually going to focus on. You know, bit by bit, we're getting more and more mature, right? And tightening up systems, but start where you are. I think I was really holding myself to a standard that wasn't necessary for to be strategic.
Awesome. I think that covers the bow tie pretty well. Anything else we missed that you want to throw in there since you kind of have been living and breathing this for some time?
Yeah. So I'm headed to RevOps AF in New Orleans, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. And my talk is on selling the value of RevOps, which was, pick the topic. And then I was like, I don't know how to do that.
That's your job. You're selling your services as an agency.
I know. So it's been a confronting adventure for the past 6 or 7 months, really nailing this. And I think step 1 is to triage your key constraint. And instead of getting tied up in all the different stages, I like to one of these 3 things: acquisition, conversion, or expansion. Which one's holding the team back? And I actually have a free, don't have to put in your email, ungated, just want you to use it. It's a little calculator type form thing. 36 seconds now on average to fill out, and it'll dump you onto a page of okay, this is your key constraint, this is what you want to do, here's the steps to do it. And you can literally just hand it to your right hand and say, go forth and execute.
Love it. That's great. And we'll have to disseminate that calculator to the audience here as well. Make sure that they get that in their hands so they can use it. Okay, cool. That was awesome. Let's move on to the next topic here. RevOps by stage. And so you mentioned with Activate the Magic, you are serving companies from 0 to 10 million in revenue for their RevOps needs. Obviously, a company at 0 is different than a company at 5 million is different from a company at 10. I think, at least. You can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you view the different stages within the range? Are there natural breakpoints? How do you think about maturity and the like?
Yeah, it's a little bit more ambiguous than I think later, where you really need to nail it in. What I usually see is when a sales team or a sales leader comes to me, it's usually because their Google Sheets empire is breaking. Even if they do have HubSpot or Salesforce or whatnot, the question to ask is, okay, cool, but would you do your forecasting or pipeline review? What are you using? And it's usually a Google Sheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, right, you want to have revenue lead infrastructure, right? So you do want it to be a little bit chaotic, right? But there is a certain point where it's oh no, I can no longer keep my arms around what's happening, and we do need to start actually documenting a process that, I don't know, might become repeatable one day. So our clients are usually coming in being like, hey, we are closing deals and we're not really sure how. It's sort of selling despite our own chaos.
A good
So
problem to have, as you
it's
mentioned.
so fun. And the good thing is that I think, both the reps and the leaders and the leadership kind of come to me with like their tail between their legs, like, we didn't do it right. It's like, nah, you are absolutely fine. You are generating revenue, and you actually have developed a repeatable sales process. You just don't know what it looks like. So
Hmm.
we're literally just going to do ride-alongs and look into your systems and honestly just like put pen to paper of what is already working, and just removing as much friction as possible for that.
Got it. Okay, so I heard a few things. Please correct me if I'm wrong. In this range of 0 to 10 million, it's maybe less about different phases within there, and it's more that like there's one persona where it's like, okay, things are just breaking. We're
Yeah.
overwhelmed with our sheets. We don't know what's happening. We have no visibility.
Yeah.
Are those the right symptoms? Is that correct?
Yeah, usually they might be on HubSpot or something, but it's usually a Frankenstein of like a bunch of order takers. Like
Hmm.
somebody had an idea and they like put it, like some consultant put it in, not really thinking about the system as a whole, you know. So it's usually like things are a mess.
Got it. So what's the goal for folks hiring Activate the Magic at that stage, or what are you kind of saying the end state's going to look like?
Yeah, we're definitely a bridge, not a barnacle. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the better job we do, the faster you graduate. And what graduation ends up looking like is we'll help you either hire someone internally and or link you up with an agency that's better suited for more complicated situations. Once you've got, 2 or 3 go-to-market motions and you've got like a real CPQ and you're trying to do things from there.
Got it. Okay, cool. So it sounds like systems dialed in, maybe some documentation of process, some sales
Yeah.
stages perhaps, like anything else on the
Yeah.
checklist.
Yeah, we want to map out your customer journey, have a good sense of like where those friction points are, and yeah, make sure when you do graduate, you have the documentation of what is in my system, why we're, not an essay, but here's the rationale for what's here, and yeah, we know that this is not going to be the end all be all configuration that you're going to get your Series C with. We know that, right? So it's let's be as light handed as possible to kind of untangle some mess, get you moving without being too heavy handed.
That's great. I think that's a great framework for folks who might be listening that are kind of in the earliest stages. Well, cool. Last category here. We also love to talk career too, and I think you are well suited to this because, as we said in the beginning, you've lived a few different lives from a career perspective. Happy to take this wherever you want to go. My first kind of question was for you is I know you came from RevOps by way of being a seller actually. So tell me, how did you make the transition? What drew you to RevOps, and maybe even like the benefits of being a former seller now in the RevOps seat?
Yeah, I do think if you have been in the BDR seat or AE seat, I think we have just a superpower of empathy, right? And just like understanding of why that's a stupid place to put a button, sort of thing. Like things that you really got to explain to people who aren't coming from carrying a bag or whatever you want to call it. So it's definitely a superpower. And then what was your other question? Like, what's the.
What drew you to RevOps, having been in the sales seat?
Everything was accidental. From day one at my first startup, everything broke. Like, I would break, I don't know how, but I just ended up breaking everything. I took the wind out of any POC sales, right? Like, I was like, no, this doesn't work because XYZ. They're like, that's not a problem. Like, it is a problem, right? So just being just a nightmare. I was a nightmare to have as a BDR from, the sales ops manager point of view. And the third startup I was at was Link Squares here in Boston. I was hire number 10, and the CEO, and he was my mentor at the time, went in person, and he like brought me to a back room with like 4 smelly AE boys. And he's like, see their cal, everybody open up your Google Cals. And everyone did, and they were like empty. He's like, can you fix that? It's like, yep. And so we went from 350K ARR to 9 million in 2 years, zero
Wow.
marketing hires, just like cold outbound and a dream, baby. And in that process, like somebody had to figure out how to connect Salesforce to outreach, right? Just like bit by bit. And I just like was completely fell head over heels. I related to it as like business Legos. Like, what do you want done? I can make it happen. Like
Yeah,
you've
that's
got the
such a
what?
RevOps mindset.
Yeah. You've got the what, I got the how, I can figure it out. Like, did you know there's Zapier? I can do anything.
That's great. What is it like? I think Link Squared is very much a rocket ship. Like you just threw out a kind of crazy revenue stat. Like
Yeah.
advice for folks doing RevOps at a rocket ship, like it's probably crazy, hair on fire, burning all the time. Like how do you prioritize? Or what's the biggest challenge or piece of advice that you might have?
Yeah, I think know what chapter in life you are in. I think there's no such thing as work life balance. It's all about work life choices, right? And if you were to watch like a high speed video of me over those 2 years, it would just be me at a computer, right? Like furiously trying to figure things out. Would that work for all people at all stages of their life? Absolutely not, right? So like have a reality check with yourself of what's what even if it's not spoken, what's being asked of me. Like in some situations they really do need like someone to eat, sleep and breathe to make the dream work. And I was severely underpaid, right? 60 grand a year and I was like building the entire thing, but everything does pay off. Like it set me up for the career that I'm able to have now, right? Like when I did get laid off a couple years ago, I just put up my shingle and very quickly I had too much work on my plate, right? So work life choices, know what chapter you're in, and don't let anyone else define success or winning for you, right? Because like when I was in the middle of that, like friends, family would be like, you're crazy, right? Like you should relax more. Like when's the last time you took a vacation, sort of thing. And like, hey, don't yuck my yum. This is like, this is what I choose to do right now. So if that's you, like, let your freak flag fly, baby.
I love it. There's also a good segue in here because you said like it might not be for everyone. You know, you kind of have to choose what you really want to do. And I wanted to ask you, like, more and more folks in RevOps have been going fractional or thinking about going fractional. I'm sure it's not for everybody. So, like, what does it take to go fractional? How should someone be thinking about that decision?
Yeah, so think about, and there's different kinds, right? So going off on your own, you want to be a solopreneur. Great. Think about what you're really good at. And if it's like actually doing the job and it's not really generating clients, then figure out a way to do that. So paying referral fees or rev share or getting yourself aligned with a bunch of other people. It takes time. You're probably going to have to give up some of your revenue, right, to make that happen. And pretty quickly I realized that like 6 months in, I was like, did I accidentally build a business? I think I accidentally built a business.
Whoops.
And yeah, oopsie. And you know what? I ended up falling in love with entrepreneurship, which is distinctly different from doing the job of RevOps, right? So no, I would say know thyself or listen to yourself. Like if you're really hating invoicing and marketing and business development and doing all the things outside of doing the role, then like hook up with another agency.
Mhm.
Like Activate the Magic, we have contractors, right? And we need talent. And I wish that Activate the Magic was something available when I left in-house and went to outhouse, the consulting side. Um,
That's great. That's good advice. And I think thinking about everything that comes along with being on your own, all of the non-RevOps work is probably the best litmus test. How can folks like you had an advantage of maybe it's relevant being a BDR in the sales seat. So you kind of knew what, sales was like to an extent. Like any advice for folks like how can people figure it out before actually taking the plunge themselves?
well, does the thought of reaching out to strangers make you want to puke? This might not be for you.
That's probably
Like,
the simple answer, yeah.
right? Like I know that I'm just like a weirdo, right? Like I live for the chase. I hope none of my clients are listening right now, but like I love generating pipeline, having that intro call, and then I'm like, okay, next who's mine? I love the business development part of it. So, but if you don't like it, I would say figure out solutions that do it kind of for you. Like Ample Market is amazing. You just kind of
Hmm.
like set things up and go. But yeah, try it. If you hate it, you hate it. Like a lot of people hate the job. Like
Yeah, I
that's
think that's
normal.
fair. And I do think like if it's something high of mind, you should just try it because I think even with account name, I don't know if it made me puke, but thinking of doing outbound before we kind of jumped into account name wasn't top of my list. But now I'm kind of in your camp where I find it thrilling and taking a deal from prospect to close is incredibly rewarding, and so I think
Yeah.
folks can grow into it as well.
Yeah. I know that like I was put on this earth to interrupt people's days and start conversations that change lives. Like that I just know that's just who I am and it's fun for me. Yeah.
We'll put that on your tombstone
Yeah,
after
yeah.
you're on this earth. That's a great quote about you. I love
Beautiful.
it. All right, rapid fire finish we do with everyone here. Jackie, two quick questions. First thing that comes to your mind: if you could fix one challenge in RevOps, what would it be?
A one challenge in RevOps. Good God.
Snap your fingers and it goes away forever.
Everyone's one team, one dream.
Love it. And how would you describe a great RevOps leader in 3 words?
Curious, collaborative, and heart for contribution.
Awesome. We'll count it. We'll put dashes in between those. Jackie, thanks so much for spending time with us today. This was awesome. I'm excited to get this out into the world. If anyone has questions for Jackie, I imagine she wouldn't mind knowing Jackie if you reach out directly, or you can ask me and I'll funnel them her way. Thanks again, Jackie. This was fun.
Thank you, James.